evolved over time, and I really identify with all that MSAI is doing. And so I've shared my screen here. Are you all able to see it? Yes.
Yes, Dr. Desai.
Okay, perfect. So, of course, we're here today to talk about getting into residency in the US. And a vital part of that is building your CV for US residency. But before we get into all of that, a little bit of information about me. Hold on here. It looks like I'm having some trouble moving my slides. One second. Let me just stop sharing and then let me share again. Okay. For some reason, I'm having a little bit of difficulty. Just bear with me for a second. Let's see if this will work. Yeah, no, I'm having some trouble advancing the slides. It was working just a minute ago.
Would you want me to share the slides, Dr. Desai? If you could share it with me via email, I would share it from my end.
Let me try one more thing here. Here we go. Did that advance?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you all for your patience. And so a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Detroit. Here you can see the skyline of Detroit, the body of water. To the left of the downtown area is the Detroit River, and that body of land to the left of the Detroit River is actually Canada. So I went to medical school just north of downtown. And it was during medical school where I was very fortunate to work with many different attending physicians. And what made my experience great was that this was a combination of both US MDs and international medical graduate physicians who were my attendings. And for those attendings who had trained all over the world, I really benefited from their perspectives, the dedication that they brought to patient care, their commitment to teaching, their passionate mentorship, and their involvement in research. So all of my attendings were very inspiring in this way and really helped me build a foundation for my future career in medicine. So for finishing in Detroit, I matched into residency in internal medicine at Northwestern University in Chicago. And I spent 4 years there in Chicago, 3 years doing my internal medicine residency. And then I stayed on to do 1 year as a chief resident. And it was in Chicago at Northwestern University where I began to appreciate the other side of the desk. So for many years, I had been trying to get into medical school, trying to get into residency, but now I had a chance to sit on the residency selection committee in our internal medicine department and see how those decisions are made. And that gave me perspectives that I never had before. And I did many other things during my residency. I had a chance to grow both personally and professionally as a clinician, as an educator, and as a mentor. And I also discovered a passion for writing. And I wrote my first book during my chief residency year. After finishing my internal medicine residency, I joined the Baylor College of Medicine here in Houston, Texas, where I am currently a faculty member. And as a professor of medicine, I serve as a core faculty in our internal medicine residency program. I am what you call an academic hospitalist. And so I work very closely with our internal medicine residents and our Baylor medical students. I've continued to follow my passions in teaching, mentoring, and in research. My particular area of interest is in educational research and how to maximize learning during clinical rotations and electives. I also serve on different committees, including the medical school admissions and residency selection committees. And this has given me further experience on what happens, as I said, on the other side of that desk. And I've continued my interest in writing. I'm the author of over 20 books. I've written books on a whole host of topics, everything from lab test interpretation to evaluating patients who present with different symptoms. But in addition to books to help us better take care of patients, I've also written a series of books to help us navigate the challenges of becoming a doctor. And in this slide, you can see some of those books. On the left are two resources that I've written to help people get into medical school. In the middle are books that help you make the most of your education in medical school, whether it's mastering the basic sciences or transitioning into clinical rotations and electives and making the most of your learning opportunities in that environment. And to the right are two resources that I have written to help people match successfully in the United States. One is called The Successful Match, which is for residency applicants, and the other one is for those seeking to enter fellowship and subspecialty programs. Today, this topic of building your CV for US residency is one part of a very complex process. As Partho said, the process of getting into residency is complex, can be daunting, and there's a lot of steps to this process. This slide captures many of those steps, and each of these steps and activities are very involved. They are layered with lots and lots of details and nuances. And today we're going to focus on a few key aspects of this process. And in terms of building our CV for residency, our focus is going to be on our leadership, our volunteer experiences, and our extracurricular activities. The strategies that I'm going to share with you are taken from the Successful Match book. We recently released a new edition of this book in 2025. The book has been identified by the AAMC Group on Student Affairs as a very high value resource and is currently utilized by a lot of US medical schools as either a required or recommended resource to help applicants match successfully. So what are our objectives today? Well, we want to gain a stronger understanding of the importance of non-academic experiences and accomplishments in the US residency selection process. We want to take actions that will position ourselves for success in the residency match with respect to this. And we also want to avoid the inactions that can prevent our success in the residency match. So let's get into these strategies. Strategy one that I want to start off with is taking the necessary steps to become a well-rounded residency applicant. And this is highlighted by a colleague of mine, Dr. Nicole Taylor, former Associate Dean of Student Affairs and Associate Program Director at Wake Forest University. She says, we like to see a well-rounded applicant and assess them based on their non-academic endeavors. Now, non-academic endeavors can fall into many, many different categories. And I want to spend a bit of time talking about what these categories are and how important your involvement in these non-academic experiences are in the selection process for residency. So in this slide, I have shared with you some information from the NRMP. The NRMP is the National Resident Matching Program. It is the body that administers our residency match, and periodically the NRMP surveys program directors. And when they survey these program directors, they ask them, what are the factors that are important to you when you are making decisions as to who you will invite for interviews to your residency program? And so in the 2024 NRMP survey of program directors representing over 20 different specialties, we found that leadership qualities were cited by 72% as an important factor. Volunteer experiences were cited by 61%, and research was indicated to be important by 41%. Now, those activities that you take part in, these non-academic experiences, you will be able to highlight and share in your residency application. Most US specialties will utilize the electronic residency application service. That will be the means by which you can share your non-academic experiences. So this essentially is your residency application. Now, within this residency application, there's a limit to how many non-academic experiences you can list. That limit is currently set at 10 experiences. Now, as a member of the residency selection committee, I've had many, many conversations with colleagues on my committee at Baylor, as well as people who sit on selection committees all across the United States. And one of the things that we talk about is, what are we looking for in these applications? Well, we definitely center on the experience section of the application, and we're particularly interested in the breadth and depth of your experiences. And in examining the breadth and depth of your experiences, we get some insight into you and how you would fit with our residency program. Now, I want to draw your attention to some mistakes that we commonly see in the experience section. And the first mistake that we see are applicants who submit a bare application. Now, a bare application is lacking in the experience section. And why might an applicant fall into this problem? Well, we see this when there is so much effort applied to one particular aspect of the residency selection process. For example, if an applicant is investing most or all of their time into step study, and that's happening at the expense of their involvement in other activities, then what will happen is we can see an application that is lacking in the experience section, and that results in a bare application. We also see applicants who submit what are called the dabbler application. So the dabbler application refers to an applicant who takes part in activities, but does a little bit of this and a little bit of that. In other words, they dabble, but their involvement tends to be brief, tends to be a bit more superficial, and so we don't see the breadth and depth that we're looking for. Some applicants will submit a superficial application, and there are a whole host of reasons why a superficial application might be submitted, but a common reason is because not enough thought is given to the description field that accompanies every experience. So you will have a chance to describe in detail what you did in that experience, its significance, its meaning, and if that part of the application, that description, is not crafted carefully, people who have done quite a bit and have depth and breadth in their non-academic experiences may come across in a more superficial way. And finally, we have the one-trick pony application. This is the applicant who centers or focuses in their efforts on one particular aspect of their CV. So for example, if someone puts most or all of their energies into building up the research profile of their CV, that can be great for your research profile, but that may not show fit with the widest range of programs. There are a small number of programs in the US that are research intensive. A majority of programs are not looking to produce the next generation of researchers. What they're really looking to find are people who are going to be clinically successful who have been involved in different things. Keep in mind that each residency program has a different mission, and you can see that when you review their websites and look at their goals. So if you're focused on one area, that may not appeal to other programs that are looking for other things. So we encourage you to follow your passions. If your passions are in research, for example, absolutely do the research, but also don't neglect other areas so that you can become well-rounded. So what is our action plan to become a well-rounded residency applicant? So I created a step-by-step approach for you to utilize. This is an excellent exercise to do at this point in time, no matter where you are in your medical school journey. And this action plan starts with the first step, which is making an all-inclusive list of all of your activities. So you can take a piece of paper or open up a Word or Google document and make a complete list of everything you've ever done, no matter how small or big it is. Make an inclusive list. After you made that list, categorize your activities into different groups. Some groups that you can categorize your activities into include research, volunteer, leadership, mentoring, service and outreach, advocacy. These are not the only categories, but these are some of the major categories you can place your activities under. Now, categorizing your activities allows you to assess where you are today in terms of your well-roundedness. You can see what areas you're strong in. You can also identify areas that you want to work on. As you create this list and categorize these activities, I also want you to take a look at the extent of your involvement and the contributions you've made through these activities. And you can do that by looking at how long you've been involved in the experience, how much time you've put into the experience, but also what you've contributed. Have you been a part of the leadership team? And if so, what was your leadership role? And what impact did you have through that leadership role? Now, one of the things that I often talk to students about is the importance of leadership. And while there may be a limited number of leadership positions in any organization, it's not required for you to be a leader to show leadership in any activity that you belong to. So remember that if you join an organization and you see something that you can do to help better that organization, that's a form of leadership, especially if you identify that and follow through in working with that organization to make that organization stronger. So again, ascertain your extent of involvement, the contributions, and the impact that you've made. And after you've done this, you can create an action plan in the time that you have left, whether it's 4 months before you apply, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, to strengthen your candidacy as a residency applicant. Strategy number 2 is to make a strong impact through your activities. So one of the great things about being a medical student today in 2026 is that we have more opportunities than ever before to get involved in different activities. I encourage you to get involved because it's so vital to our personal and professional growth. And then when you get involved, as much impact as possible. Now, in terms of impact on residency selection, your involvement in activities are going to be noted by selection committees. So we're going to take note of what you've done, what specifically you've contributed. But in one way for us to measure your impact is by taking a look at any honors and awards that you've earned. And this is an area that doesn't get a lot of attention, but honors and awards are something that I want you to think about because so many of you are making impacts. And if you can make those impacts and be recognized for it, it has a chance to really enhance your CV and put you in a position for a successful match. So we know that honors and awards are valued by competitive specialties and residencies. We know that it strengthens the CV. It can distinguish you from your peers. And it can be featured in the residency application in different places, including the MSPE, which is your medical school performance evaluation, which is essentially a document prepared by your medical school, which is a summary of your medical school performance. Honors and awards can be featured in the residency application and in the letters of recommendation. So in the residency application, honors and awards are one of the earliest items that residency programs will see. And the system allows you to categorize your honor award in different types. So you can have honors and awards that are honor society. You can be receive distinction in community and service for your academic excellence, for your research, grants, and then there's a category for other honors or awards. Now, one of the things that I want to impress upon you is that some awards and honors will find their way to you. For example, if you're a medical school and they have a well-established system for academic awards, if you achieve at a certain level, you may find yourself winning that award and honors. But there are other awards and honors that you have to go actively seek out. And so I want you to think about what could potentially be out there, not just at your local and campus level, but think about the organizations you belong to and what might be available at the regional or state level, what honors and awards might be there at the national level, and also think about international awards and honors. I want to share with you some awards that are available to international medical students, international medical grads in the United States. And I'm going to give internal medicine as an example. So, in the specialty of internal medicine, there are three major professional societies. There are the American College of Physicians, or the ACP. There is the Society of Hospital Medicine, or SHM. And there's the Society of General Internal Medicine, or SGIM. All three of these professional societies have annual conferences, typically in April or May of every calendar year. Now, all three societies accept abstracts from students, residents, fellows, and they have abstract competitions. The deadlines for these abstracts are typically in November and December. And at these competitions, awards are given. For example, at the ACP, you can win awards for clinical vignette and research abstracts. Similarly, these other organizations offer awards as well. And what's great about taking part in these types of experiences is that not only does it enhance your CV, but if you get accepted, for example, to one of these societies, you can attend these conferences where you can present your abstract in the form of a poster presentation or oral presentation, and your acceptance to these and your opportunity to present at these conferences gives you an opportunity to be eligible for these awards. Now, in our MD2B Connect clinical rotation program, we very much encourage our rotators to take part in these submissions. I want to tell you about a couple of our students who rotated with us. They encountered a very fascinating case during one of their rotations, and they really wanted to present this with the scientific community. So, in collaboration with their clinical preceptor and myself, we worked towards helping them achieve their goals. And they were able to do that by submitting their abstract to the Society of General Internal Medicine. And not only was it accepted as a presentation, it was accepted as an oral presentation, which is one of the most prestigious honors you can get at this particular conference. So this is a slide of me and our student in 2025 attending the SGM annual meeting, where our student was able to deliver this oral presentation. And it was a great opportunity, not only to be recognized, but also an opportunity for her to do some valuable networking. Our next strategy is to dive a little bit deeper into how you can contribute. You all are taking part in activities in India, contributing in different ways. And one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is to continue your involvement in those things that you're passionate about, but with a focus also on the United States. So let's talk about how you can deepen your contributions in these non academic areas when you're here in the US doing your rotations. And to do that, I want to share with you a case study of Rohan. Rohan was one of our rotators. And when he rotated in our program, I talked with him, as I do with all of our rotators, and we dived deep into his CV and his interests to talk about how we can build his CV even further. And one of the things that I always like to ask our students is what gives you meaning? What are the things that you've done that you're passionate about and you really want to keep doing? And so when I talked to Rohan, it became very clear that he was interested in fall prevention. And his interest in fall prevention came from a very personal experience in India when his grandmother had fallen in their home and had injured herself, and that had led to a long hospitalization. And, going through that made him really think about what he could do to prevent falls in older adults. And so when he came here to the United States and he did an internal medicine rotation, he quickly realized that a lot of his patients who were older in age were not very well informed about fall prevention. So as we talked about his interest, it became clear to me that this was something that he would love to dive deeper into. And so we brainstormed things that we could potentially do. And we came up with the idea of creating a fall prevention flyer for outpatient use. Now, the area in which he was rotating, the population that community that was in that community was very, very diverse. So in creating this flyer, we didn't want it to be of use to only people who spoke English. So we had it translated into 6 different languages. And when I asked Rohan, you know, what else are you interested in? He told me about his interest in underserved medicine. So we decided, as part of our initiative to provide this fall prevention education for outpatients, that we would target free health clinics. So Rohan made a list of free health clinics in the area. He contacted them, he interfaced with their key personnel, and he received permission to use the flyer as an educational tool in these free health clinics. And as he engaged with these clinics, and he became known to them, he received additional opportunities. He was invited to give talks at these centers to educate staff on fall prevention. And the flyer began to be used in different ways. At one clinic during the safety awareness seminar, the flyer was an important tool that was used. It was featured on another clinic's social media during Patient Safety Awareness Week. And as you can see, as Rowan is diving deeper into his interest, he's getting more and more involved in terms of, what he's accomplishing, the impact he's making, and he's showing a lot of depth to this activity. And that's something that's going to be noticed on Rohan's residency application. And Rohan didn't stop there. He's currently researching the effectiveness of the flyer through patient surveys. So I want you to think about your interests and how you can continue your involvement in your interests. Things that you started in India can definitely be continued here in the US. Some other examples of students who've done things. When I had a student who rotated with us express an interest in homeless populations, because in India he had done some work with the homeless, I connected him with a homeless shelter in the city in which he was rotating, and he volunteered there. And he also took part in other activities. He had a background in knitting, so I connected him with a nonprofit that was based in a cold part of the United States, which developed clothing for homeless individuals who lived in those cold climates. So he worked with that nonprofit to provide a much needed service for their homeless population in that part of the country. When I met another student who rotated with us, who had done door-to-door surveys in rural communities in India, raising vaccine awareness, we connected her with an advocacy group here in the US to help work on an advocacy project that would be proposed to some politicians in the US to raise awareness of vaccines. when I met a student from India who was interested in South Asian uh, heart disease risk, we connected him here in the US with some local temples where he could come and speak about heart disease and their increased risk in South Asians. When I met a student who was very invested in rural care, uh, he took part in a survey study of a small town in Texas to find out what specialists were not accessible to the residents living in that town. And he worked with a local university to improve access to those specialists through telemedicine. When I met another student who rotated with us who was very much into geriatric medicine, I connected him with a companionship program where he, on a weekly basis, met with an elderly individual with cognitive impairment to provide companionship. So these examples are shared with you today so that you can realize that the things you're interested in that may have its origins in India can be continued here in the US. And if you can continue to that in the US, you're going to enjoy following through on your passions. You're going to build your CV for residency, and you're really going to strengthen that foundation for your future career in the US. And so, with that said, what we do here at MD2B Connect is we believe very strongly about not just empowering you with information, but connecting you not just to that information, but to the resources, the opportunities, the people that will allow you to continue your growth, both personally and professionally, and build that CV for your residency application. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Manish, who'll tell you a little bit more about what we do at MD2B Connect.
Okay, thanks, Samir. So what I want to do is this is our last slide before we get to allow for some questions and answers. And I wanted to talk about, as a company, what our mission is and some of the ways we achieve that mission. So our goal, our vision, is to help develop the next generation of outstanding IMG physicians in the U.S. So for us, we realize how important IMG physicians are in the U.S. and everything that we do is built to develop the next crop of people coming through. And how do we do that? So we have three major pillars of our program, and the largest portion of our company is structured around rotations and clinical experiences. So the first thing we do that we believe differentiates us quite a bit is take a highly personalized approach. So for us, this is not like Amazon where you go point, click, and buy a rotation. From the very beginning, as Alyssa mentioned, if you end up doing any work with us, you'll be talking to our team. You'll have an introductory meeting where we'll get to know you personally, your CV. We'll talk about what are your goals, and everything that we do is tailored to each person. It's not just here's a generic piece of advice for everybody. It really is for each individual, because no two people's story are exactly alike. So the next thing we do is put you into high quality clinical experiences. And by high quality, we have preceptors who are very nice, caring people, and they're going to let you get involved, and which will maximize the chance of getting a strong LOR, which of course is what most people or everybody wants from this experience. And one thing we wanted to point out, there's of course a lot of focus and thoughts about university rotations out there, and absolutely, we would say as a company, there's some great university experiences you can get that will enhance your knowledge of the system and improve your application and your CV. The reality is there's good and bad university rotations. There are good and bad private company rotations. But one thing that is for sure is that when you go to a university rotation, and if you want to put your best foot forward and make a good impression and get that strong LOR, you're better off if you have some familiarity with the system. So one thing that our rotations do is really prepare you because you have a very low stress, comforting environment. You're learning a lot, but with nice preceptors that will allow you to excel in your university rotation. Because if you go to your university rotation and you're not ready, and it's your first thing in your system, and you're nervous, and you don't know the culture, and that increases the chances that you won't perform well. So we're trying to minimize that. So really, we do believe our rotations really build your skills and confidence. And then the last piece, which is everything that Dr. Desai was mentioning today, you can see an example of, is structured mentorship. We want to professionally develop you. We want to be, we want to give you specific advice for your situation. And Dr. Desai talks to every one of our rotators during the rotation, and frankly, before, during, and after the rotations, we keep in touch with everybody who works with us. So that is those are some of the main points of us as a company, and how we deliver on our mission. And with that, I think we're ready for some questions and answers, Bartho, there. Oh, actually, one more thing. I forgot about this last slide, is that here are the places on social media and where you can connect with us. And the last one is our website. And if you are interested in working with us, you can sign up for you can sign up for both a 100-page sample of our successful matchbook and an introductory meeting. It's completely free, and we get to have a nice conversation to learn about you and explain what we do further. Okay. So we're ready for any questions, and we can answer anything that the group wants to talk about.
Thank you so much, Dr. Desai, Manisha, and Alisha, for being here. If anyone has any questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask it, or you can put it in the chat box. Is there anyone? If not, there are a few questions that we have collected when we were asking people to sign up for the webinar. So maybe I'll go through them, but I think there is.
Looks like Darshan has a question here.
Yes, Darshan is asking why to prefer US residency over Indian residency.
Okay. So we're going to start with that one.
Sure. So, Darshan, thank you for your question. The decision, of course, to pursue a U.S. residency is a very personal decision. We talk to students all the time, and they have many different reasons for coming to the U.S. We meet a lot of students who have become more informed of what U.S. residency is like because of their seniors who have, talked to them about what goes on in our training programs. In the U.S., our U.S.-based residencies, no matter what specialty you're going after, they are very standardized in the sense that we have a governing body, it's called the ACGME, that evaluates every single one of our residency programs. And there's some standards that have been established. And every program is expected to adhere to those standards because they're continuously being assessed. So from the standpoint of quality, the training has to meet those standards all across the board. Now, when people come to the US, some people have the intent of training here and staying here. Some people have the intent of coming here, learning and taking back what they've learned to benefit their population back home. And we've had a lot of people who've come here and done residency and fellowship and chosen to go back to their home country because maybe that particular specialty wasn't accessible to them. But there are different reasons why people come here. Obviously, life situations change. There may be family that has moved from one country to another, and people want to establish themselves in the U.S. because of that reason. But yeah, obviously, it's a very personal decision. And the key question you have to ask yourself is, what are your professional goals and what are your personal goals? And if you can meet those goals in India, it can be a great place to, establish your career, obviously. But if there's something that you need that perhaps you can't fulfill while you're in India, then the US isn't a place to also consider.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to what Samir just said here. So, and look, I'm the finance guy right here, so I don't want to ignore the money piece of this. And a lot of people, frankly, there's a lot of desire because of the financial benefits of being a doctor in the U.S. What we would say is this, that cannot be ignored. That's the reality of life and how lucrative it could be in the U.S. But if that's the sole reason, and you're doing a 30-40 year career purely for the financial side, as Dr. Desai said, it's a very personal thing, but what we found, the people that have enjoyed going through the process and residency and becoming attendings afterwards are people who are passionate about the profession and the process. So if you're purely driven by finance, I mean, that's obviously a reason and can be a goal, but that it just a warning that's something, if that's your sole driver, that it could be a long existence. Now, when you couple that with other things like you love the cutting edge technology, or working with people here, or wanting to be in the country for other reasons, that usually pairs very well. But one can't ignore the finances. But I would say that if that's your main driver or only driver, that there is some potential risk there. Okay. I think, Martha, there's another question in the chat here.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Desai and Manish, for answering that question, because a lot of us are in the dilemma: what do we choose? Shall we go away from far from family and home? So yeah, thank you for putting in perspective. So we have another question. They're thanking you for the amazing session. So the question is it good for my application if I mention national awards granted in non-medical fields like finance?
So I didn't hear the first part of the question. Can you repeat that part, though?
Is it good for my application if I mention national awards granted in non-medical fields like finance?
Okay, yes, great question. In the honors and awards section of the application, the awards and honors can be medical or non-medical. There can be a lot of value to including non-medical awards. Here in the US, we have a lot, if we just use the example of US medical students, we have a lot of medical students in the US who have been in other careers before they enter medical school and residency. And that can be in anything. They may have been an engineer, a lawyer, somebody who's been in business, and they may have received distinctions from doing great work in those areas. Those have value to us as residency programs, because the things that are required to earn those honors and awards, they're often qualities, right, that people have, skills that are transferable to medicine. And it also serves as a marker of your success in the other field. And so it gives us an idea of, your standing, how much you've attained, even if it's outside of medicine, and how that might be applied in a medical setting. So if you've won distinctions outside of medicine, it can be something that is useful to you in the residency application.
Thank you so much, Dr. Desai. So I hope that question is answered. So moving on to the next question, Bhavana is asking, when is the right time to apply for rotations in the US? And she's also thanking you for the great session.
Okay. Thank you for your question. So, if you're a current medical student and you are thinking about a university rotation, uh, we have to keep in mind that those university rotations will often take applications well in advance of when people want to start the rotation. So, what you want to do, using just that as an example, is you want to research the available university options. And each university has its own process. So, once you become familiar with what that is, you will know what the requirements are to be eligible for a rotation at that particular place and what the timeline is. And part of this process involves getting things done for their eligibility criteria. So a lot of universities in the US will want you to take a step one exam and have that in hand in order to be considered. So that's going to be factored into your timeline. And so this whole process of when to apply starts with becoming familiar with what their process is, what it takes to apply, and then you can do all the things that are necessary to be ready for when the application opens, because you want to be among the first to submit everything and have a completed application. So what I would advise to you, if you're thinking about a university rotation, is to start researching those options. It's not too early to do that, so you can get an idea of the actions you have to take and when you have to get everything done by so that you can be considered for that position.
Can I let me add to what Dr. Desai said. I want to talk a little bit about the specifics of our program and one other general comment. So in our program for rotations, you do not need to have particular step exams done or things like that, which can be an advantage, for where some other programs have some requirements. Samir, would you say that for when I talk to a lot of our clients, having some clinical experience in medical school is an advantage before you start your rotations here? Meaning, just to get your feet wet. If you've only done the classroom things in your home country in medical school, in India in this case, maybe it's a little too early, where you can only just purely shadow. Do you think that the combination, or having some clinical experience in medical school before you do rotations here, is an advantage?
For many people, yes, but it also depends on where you are in your journey. We talked a little bit ago about, you know, is it a good idea to come to the US for residency? That decision is a big decision. Uh, I would say that for somebody who's not sure, coming over here a bit earlier in medical school and experiencing something in US medicine can be very enlightening as to whether this is the right path for you. Because before you take on this arduous process of studying for the steps, strengthening your CV through all your non academic experiences, why not come over here earlier in medical school and do something in US medicine? Now, that might mean that you don't have a very strong clinical foundation yet. Maybe you haven't even done any clinical rotations in India or wherever you live. But that's okay too, because you're coming here to experience something, and that's going to help you make a very important decision in your life. Now, some students will elect to do that, and that's all right. Other students will be more certain. They will want to come here to do a clinical experience with the intent of, hey, I'm sure that I want to be a resident in the US. For those students, I think it's advantageous for them to have a stronger clinical foundation, have taken part in what we call core clerkships in here in the US. So in the US, core clerkships are such things as internal medicine, family medicine, surgery, pediatrics, obstetrics and gynecology, psychiatry. So to have that foundational year before you come over here will allow you to make more of the learning opportunities you'll be presented here with in the US, and will allow you to just get so much more out of the experience. I think for that segment of the population, that's good to do that before they come over here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Desai and Manish, for the answer. So, moving on to the next question, we have Ashish asking, is it a good idea to go for a MSI exchange program for CV building for US residents? I'm not
What's
sure.
the MSAI exchange program?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you're aware of it. I'll give you a view about what it is. So in MSI, we send our medical students to different countries for either a research exchange or a professional exchange where they can work in a different hospital under a mentor. It can be in surgery, medicine, pediatrics, OBG, any, for 4 weeks. So it's like a kind of a elective, but not in US, but in a different country. And countries are like most European countries, Canada, and also some Southeast Asian countries like South Korea, Japan. So this is what the exchange program is.
So basically,
Yeah,
effectively, the question is was it helpful to do things in other countries besides the US?
Yeah, so the answer is yes, it can be very helpful. So in the United States, our medical students here, they often travel abroad to take part in global health experiences. And these international health experiences, when they look back on it, they are so happy that they've done it because they experience so much growth during that experience. It gives them many very valuable perspectives that they would not have otherwise. And they come back here with a different outlook, and they're changed in many, many ways. And that benefits care of our patients. In the US, we're multicultural, very, very diverse. We have people from all over the world. And so when we take part in experiences that make us more culturally sensitive and open to different viewpoints and perspectives, it allows us to meet the needs of our patients in the way that our patients' needs must be met. So our US students benefit from that. Our US-based residency programs value those experiences. So if you're in India and you have the opportunity to get involved in a great exchange program that MSAI has created, you will also benefit in so many different ways, for your future foundation as a physician, and then of course for your chances of getting to US residency, because it will be looked upon very favorably.
Hey, Bartho, just from an administrative standpoint, because I think we've reached our limit. I think we can do the questions that are in the chat right now, but I think that's probably all we can handle before, because we have some other commitments and things too. So is that reasonable for you?
Yeah, sure. So let us know like how many questions you can take, and after that, maybe we'll ask the participants to send us a question, and we can email it over to you. And then if you want to add anything, we'll get back to our participants accordingly.
Okay, I think so. I think we can go through Sumili's question. That's like the last one. I think let's go from there up until then. So.
Sure. So the last question you'll be taking will be Sumili's, right? So
yes.
Okay, so we have another 4 questions, I think, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Yes.
So Siddhi is asking, my question is, if you had to guide a first or second year medical student, what would be the ideal roadmap to maximize residency chances?
Okay, so actually, I'm going to take this one here because I think Dr. Desai could probably talk about this for a long time. This could be its own topic for multiple different sessions. So, Siddhi, it's a good question of but there's 2 things. First, the roadmap is very large, and it's very, as said before, it's very personalized. So really, for the scope of this, in one of the slides Dr. Desai showed, it was all the bullet points that make up the things of the application, and the roadmap would include parts of all of that. When we're gonna do future sessions with Partho and the MSAI team, we're gonna get into different components of that roadmap. But to answer very, very briefly in one question answers, unfortunately, not we can't do that very simply. It's there's a lot to it. I will say that if you do sign up for an introductory meeting with us, talking about some of that roadmap and all of that is something that you get a lot of information on at no cost, and we can go in a lot more detail in your specific situation. But it's unfortunately too broad a generic a question to kind of answer it in the scope of today. So. But it is a very good question. I don't want to downplay that. It's a very thoughtful, good question. It's just kind of large and specific for each person.
Yeah, maybe Siddhi, you could send me a mail. I could link where you could sign up for the free interaction with Drs. Desai and could clear your doubts. So another question we have was, what can be the reason for people with great scores and a good research experience going unmatched?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah.
Dr. Desai,
sorry, Partho, go ahead.
I think the next question is an extension to this question. So I'll ask both the questions together. Maybe you could answer it together. So Krati is asking, at what point should an applicant realistically reassess their strategy if their USMLE Step 2 CK score and overall profile isn't competitive enough?
Okay, so the first part of that question, and what are reasons why people with high scores and a lot of research experience, why might they not be successful in the residency match? And we do see this. It's a common occurrence, and the reason why can be varied. But what we have to understand is the process of matching into residency is the culmination of many, many steps. And so when you're talking about matching, we divide it into two parts. The first part is doing everything we can to get interviews. And the second part is doing well in interviews. So the first part, doing everything we can to get interviews, that's all about what we're talking about today. So in addition to your step performance, it's about creating a well-rounded profile. So yes, that involves getting involved in research, but it also involves a lot of other things. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier in terms of your well-roundedness. So if you're not, well-rounded, that can affect the level of interest that you receive from programs. Because we have some 600-700, just using internal medicine as an example, some 600-700 internal medicine residency programs, they have different mission statements. They have different goals. And so if we can get involved in different things, that well-roundedness has a chance to be noticed by a wider range of programs. And so we might benefit from getting more interviews if we do that. There are other parts to this. So on one other part is the residency application itself. So we can do everything right. We can be well-rounded. We can have high step scores. We can be involved in research. But if we don't create a compelling application, our descriptions for our experiences are not well crafted, our personal statement is not resonating with somebody on that selection committee, then we may suffer for that. And then, of course, we have applicants who receive interviews, and then for whatever reason, their interview performance isn't where it needs to be to allow them to be ranked in a high place on that program's rank order list. And we see that a lot. When you get to the interview stage, your interview performance is the most important thing in the entire selection process. So these are some of the reasons. They're not all of the reasons, but these are definitely some of the reasons. Now, in terms of an applicant with, I believe they said that maybe a less competitive score, how can that person find success? Well, I'm here to tell you that many people with less competitive scores do find success in the US residency match. And they do that by being well informed of what it takes to match. So knowledge is power. They do that by taking a very strategic approach to strengthening every aspect of their candidacy. So they look at their US clinical experience options and they select wisely among those options. They select things where they can showcase their qualities and skills. They select experiences where they can work with somebody who's invested in them, a preceptor who's caring, kind, who's going to advocate for them. And by picking the right US clinical experience, they put themselves in a position to perform well and then earn a strong letter from that performance. So making good decisions and having the right strategies when you have a less competitive score is a big part of this. And so in strengthening every aspect of your candidacy, that means not just USCE, that means your extracurriculars and your non-academic experiences, these things that we're talking about today, your leadership, your volunteer experiences, your research, all of these things need to be carefully tended to, because when you have a less competitive score, you don't have that luxury of anything falling off. You really need to tend to every bit of it so that it's as strong as it can to attract that interest. But there are many examples I can give you of people with lower scores who received many, many interviews, and people with higher scores who received fewer interviews. And that's because in the US, our residency application system selection process takes a look at all of these things. It all matters, and it's all very important.
Yeah, and let me add to what Dr. Desai just said. That's definitely our view as a company. It's a holistic view of your application. As he said, every piece of it matters. Of course, some pieces for certain specialties, and there's some pieces are going to matter a bit more than others, and that shifts around. But Krathi, what you're saying, what you're asking is when should an applicant realistically reassess? You should always be kind of assessing your state of things. If you have an introductory meeting with me, if you talk to us later, I always use the analogy, it's like a puzzle. All these pieces of your application are like a puzzle pieces that fit together. And how you do in one area can affect how you need to do another area. So it's the whole thing together. It's not necessarily just one thing or just another thing. It's everything together, and you should be always looking at that and saying, okay, it doesn't mean all is lost if something is not ideal, but you have to be realistic in looking at the entire picture and as you're putting the different components together. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Desai and Manish, for the answer. Also, we have a question from Dave. Dave says, in case there is a global conflict wherein we are required to leave the country, are there measures in place that could allow us to continue residency securely?
Okay, so I'll take this one. This is unfortunately way beyond the scope of what we would be able to answer here for multiple reasons. What happens from a geopolitical standpoint and what residency programs decide to do? That's really not. I mean, these are large government and nationwide things that are not really specific to getting into residency. So I definitely understand with everything going on in the world today and politics and all things going on, there are I can legitimately see some major concerns for people and what they want to do. But requiring to leave the country, we've never seen anything that residents are ever required to leave the country. No one can predict the future. We don't really just see that happening. And if that happened, what would be the recourse? We don't really know. It's just there'd be just a lot of speculation on our part. So really, unfortunately, we can't really answer that well.
Thank you, Manish. So we have Arushi asking, do IMGs get accepted into categorical surgery positions? If so, how does the CV need to be built differently for it? And they're also thanking you for the wonderful session.
So the answer to that question is yes, IMGs can and do match into categorical general surgery programs. Uh, in terms of what uh, it takes a number of things. First of all, uh, general surgery programs place a high premium on step scores. So your step two score, if it's higher, that's going to make your path getting into a categorical general surgery program easier. But a high step two score in and of itself is not enough. We have to tend to other aspects of the application. So your US clinical experience in general surgery is very, very important. Uh, you need to get letters of recommendations written by general surgeons in the US. Letters written by non-surgeons, whether here in the US or back in India or anywhere else in the world, are not very valued by general surgery residency programs. So it's incumbent upon any general surgery residency applicant to get US clinical experience. Now, what we generally recommend people who are going after general surgery is that they eventually do university-based rotations. So if you're a current international medical student, you, if you can, would like to do a university rotation. But before you do a university rotation, we would encourage you to do something that will prepare you well to do well in that university rotation. So our general surgery rotations at MD to be Connect have been designed in such a way to be a great preparation for students who move on to university rotations. Because if you think about it, if you're going to do a university rotation in general surgery, this is your chance to audition or show them everything you have to offer. Now, when you do a university rotation in surgery as your first clinical experience in the US, you're at a disadvantage, not because you don't know the subject matter. You've studied the same subject matter that a US medical student has, but because you're new to the system and you're new to the hospital and institution, you're not going to be ready to show your what you truly have to offer in that first rotation or two in general surgery. So for that reason, doing something outside the university in general surgery serves as an excellent prep to then excel during your university rotation. And then what we recommend people do is when they do their university rotation, they can network with the general surgery faculty to secure some research in the field. Research is very, very important for general surgery residency. Many people who do categorical general surgery do 1 to 2 years of research in an academic department. And you're more likely to be able to secure that, again, through this path where you prepare to do well in a university rotation, then secure a university rotation, make a strong impression in your university rotation, network through the faculty to help you identify a research experience, either at that institution or at another institution, which might be 1 to 2 years. Now, some people ask us, can you match into categorical general surgery without 1 to 2 years of dedicated research? And the answer is yes. We've actually had students who've rotated through our program that have matched into categorical general surgery without doing 1 to 2 years of research. What they've had to do is have a very strong networking plan, which is something we discuss with our general surgery applicants, and for that matter, with every applicant going into any specialty, we talk about networking. So there's different ways to get to general surgery residency categorical positions, but the most common way is the former rather than the latter. The former being start with a good preparation rotation, move on to university rotations, do 1 to 2 years of research, and then position yourself for a successful match. But if you can't do it that way, then it will require a lot of networking if you can't do the 1 to 2 years of research.
Okay. So Partha, I think there's one more question, right? Partha, are you there?
I think Partha might be having some internet issue.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see. So I can take the last question. I did want to mention one thing for the entire organization. I see Darshan's question about the introductory meeting, and Alyssa responded to it. I wanted to make something clear, so there was no misunderstanding. So our introductory meeting is geared. The way we interact with our clients is through our clinical experience rotations. And the introductory meeting is not, it's without me or one of our client services team. If you end up doing a rotation with us, then you'll get a chance to speak with Dr. Desai, or if you're in Houston, there's a very good chance you'll get a chance to meet him. But the introductory meeting, to be clear, is with our client services team. We get to understand your background, and it's designed towards doing a U.S. clinical experience or a rotation with us. So I didn't want everyone to have the misunderstanding that signing up for the meeting means 1 hour with Dr. Desai. I just wanted to be clear. Unfortunately, the good part and the bad part is we work with way too many people in a year or in a given time period for everyone's initial meeting to be with a Dr. Desai. But our team is very knowledgeable. Everything that we talk about is through what Dr. Desai is talking about and in his book. So you'll meet with us first, and then if you end up doing the rotation, you absolutely will get a chance to talk to Dr. Desai. So I wanted that to be clear. Okay, let me take the last question here. Samir, this is from Sumili. It says, is our internship year enough as a clinical experience in medical school, or do we need to have additional clinical exposure before applying for a clinical rotation in the US?
So we've met a lot of students who come to our program in their internship year or having completed an internship year. And what we found is that these students are well positioned to make the most of their learning opportunities in US-based clinical experiences. So, of course, you have to look at your particular situation. Every medical school is a little bit different in terms of how they structure their curriculum, what exposure and involvement students have with respect to clinical rotations. But our experience has been that many students come here during their internship or immediately thereafter, and they are well positioned to get as much as they want out of these experiences. Would you say that's fair, Manish?
Yeah, absolutely. I think internship years are, once you've gotten to that point, and as you're functioning as a doctor in India with a lot of experience under your belt, that's gone very well with our rotations at other places, universities, or you find on your own. I think that's a solid background where to do any clinical experience.
And I'll add a little bit to that. We take, as Manish said, a very personalized approach to every student and rotator that approaches us. So in that introductory call, we go very deep into your situation, but part of that involves understanding, what you might be concerned about. So if you communicate to us, hey, in my medical school, I got this, but I didn't get that, I'm a little bit worried about what that means for my clinical experience in the US and how I'll be perceived. That's something we